is up? What is up? What is up, everybody? It's your boy, Steve from Reptile. I am. Here I am with the Show Me Network over here, and we've got a really exciting guest today. I'm going to go ahead and bring him on. But first, what we're going to go ahead and do is, as always, we're going to go ahead and play his little intro reel. So hang tight, and let's introduce Rufus Darden. Rufus, welcome, my brother, to the Show Me Network, man.
Hey, Steven, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So when I very first was like, hey, Rufus, would you like to come on the show? It was because of some of the exceptional stuff I've seen with Sand Boas. As I started to dig in, there's a lot more behind the scenes with you. Which we'll kind of get into that a little bit, but why don't you go ahead and tell everybody a little bit about yourself and what you do with the reptiles.
Okay, yeah, sure. Well, as you know, I love the Sand Boas. That's my primary focus. I've been working with Sand Boas for a little over 25 years now.
That's awesome.
However, along the way, I've, of course, been, dealt with other reptiles and amphibians as well. It's really been like a lifelong passion that I've had, and so I've kept everything from blue-tongued skinks and red-eyed crocodile skinks, the leopard geckos, and bearded dragons. However, the one sort of mainstay that I've always had are those sand boas. All along the way. And then, prior to that, I guess you go back to childhood, I lived out in a rural area in Tennessee, and I just really enjoyed getting out and catching snakes and salamanders, lizards, turtles, pretty much anything that moved.
I feel that in my heart and soul, brother.
Yeah. So, I mean, really, I know if you go to one of these trade shows, you may see me with the sand boas, and that is my primary focus, of course. So like I said it before, but I just, it's really been kind of a lifelong passion to be involved with all reptiles at various capacities. So
yeah. I know I think I met you. It's been probably 2 years ago now, maybe a little bit more than that. And it was absolutely your sand boas. And a lot of people don't know this, but like you said, the reptiles, that's been something going on since I didn't even know that was a thing. That's just what we did in the Midwest up here, But when I very first started getting into reptiles serious and going into the direction I am today, it almost started with a sand boa. It really did. And just walking through, saw your animals, and I was like, man, these are insane. So I'd like to show a couple of the animals, and I don't have them in any. I feel like I have them in some sort of order, but I tell you what, dude, they're all just so loaded. I'll put one up, and you kind of tell us a little bit about what we're looking at here.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll be glad to. And if you have any questions along the way, just let me know.
Sure. So, boom.
Oh, okay. Yeah, this is Paradox albino Kenyan sand boa, and maybe something I don't know with your crowd if they're more beginners, advanced or not, but even if they're more advanced, if they're not in the sand boa world, they may not know that the Paradox albino is actually inheritable. And so with paradoxing with other snakes, it's not usually inheritable. And however, with the sand boas, it sort of comes, as a part of the package. So really, you have with Kenyan sand boas, you have like two different types of albinos. You've got the paradox albino that you see there, and that's a simple recessive mutation. And then you also have albino, sometimes called bell line albino, which will not have the paradoxine. And so those are two different types. As a matter of fact, if you breed those together, your whole litter will be normal, but they'll all be double het, right? So.
Huh, okay. Well, you're really good at this game because you stole one of my questions that I was going to ask you here in a little bit, and I'm just going to pocket it, and I'm going to be like, "That's where you stole it." I love that. That was a great description. So, here's another one: Paradox albino paint.
Yeah, so here we're starting to stack some genes, get some combos. This is really what I really enjoy doing this with the Sand Boas. What you have here is the Paradox albino showing through, right? That's visual for that, but it's also visual for another recessive trait, which is paint. And paint is really that broad stripe down the middle.
Sure.
In Sand Boas, you may know there's kind of two different types of stripes. There's one they actually call stripe, which is more of an incomplete dominant, and then there's the one that you see there, which is the paint. And people outside the Sand Boa world, they might call it like a genetic stripe, right? It's a recessive stripe. Yeah.
Sure.
So that's what you're seeing there.
And then we've got albino GX paint. Is GX recessive as well, Rufus?
It does follow that pattern of inheritance. Yes. I will say in my experience, it doesn't seem to follow it perfectly, but it's pretty close. Probably like closest thing we've, got, I guess, to kind of name it. So yeah, what you're looking at is an albino GX paint. And so this is that other form of albino that does not have the black spots. It has the paint. If you could see the rest of the body, it would have kind of, no pattern in the middle. What makes it GX is the head. If you look at, more than the head, but the thing that you can see clearly is there's no postocular stripe and no head pattern. So those GXs have a very clean head. Another thing you can kind of see on the tail there is the pattern breaks up into spotting. It usually happens on the lower third of the body in the GX paint, whereas with the paint, you would get that full stripe all the way down.
And I don't necessarily want to drop this next picture, but I feel like it kind of goes into it. I wanted to wait because I feel like arguably this is one of my favorites. Dude, the Eryx GX paint. This is ridiculous.
I think this is probably the one that gets the most attention at the shows. And, it's an anery, so black and white, right? But then it's got that GX and that paint. And so paint, you get, that striping down the middle, and then the GX, you're going to get reduced, broken up pattern on the sides. And the head, you'll notice, is super clean. And that's kind of your big difference between an anery paint and an anery GX paint. So the anery GX paint, that's the one that looks like, like this, that super clean head and those dark black eyes. And yeah, people come around at the shows all the time, and that's the one they're always, they make some comment like, that's the cow snake, or, something like that. But people seem to really love those.
Well, I remember when I first met you, we actually did a spotlight. I was like, man, I got to talk to this guy. I'm almost positive that I held this little one.
You may have.
So super, super awesome. So for anybody that we're looking at these animals right now and showing them, and these are not like your entry level animals in any way, shape, or form. When it comes to some of these pictures we're showing, how long have you been working to get to this point?
Well, it would depend on the project. The Paradox albino paints, I don't know the number. I mean, it goes back, probably, close to a decade.
Yeah.
Something like that.
The level of commitment, that's just exceptional. Okay, so we showed I wanted to ask something on this one real quick.
Sure,
So with what we saw on the one that you were just talking about, the Paradox Albino or the
Yes.
GX paint, and
Yeah.
it had the dotting on the tail, is that coming through with this all the way up the snake because of the anery?
Are you mean
So like, let me see if I can find the picture.
on the previous?
Yeah, we were just looking at it,
Okay.
and you were
Sure,
talking
sure.
about.
Okay, that one.
Well, no, I can't
Oh,
find it now. We were
that's
talking
okay.
about the tail, and
Oh yeah.
it had all of the dotting on it,
Mhm,
and then here we are with this one, and it was
mhm.
carrying it. So I just figured I would ask, but it looks like I kind of blew that one out.
No, it's a
So
yeah. That dotting or spotting there on the tail. That's the gene X that kind of usually does that. Kind of breaks up that reduces that pattern
sure,
into spotting. Yeah. It can happen on albinos and aneries. You just need that gene X in there
it's this one.
with the paint. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, yeah. So
So
that.
it's got the dots going down the
Mm-hmm.
tail, and then the
Yes.
anery
Mm-hmm.
has
It
them going
also.
all the way up. I wasn't sure if that was
Oh,
amplifying the dotting.
you you know that the anery's not, but what you'll get is some Gene X paints are just more to just have more pattern reduction than others. A good example, if you ever get a chance, you go to Instagram, you'll see I label some of them. They're called third gen Gene X paints, and so they're like third generation, and they're going to be highly reduced. They just have even smaller amount of spots on them. So yeah, you can kind of breed for for the pattern reduction. You can kind of push that one way or the other there inside that Gene X morph.
Now, do you personally have a preference? Do you like more dots, less dots?
Yeah, I kind of like less as long as it has a clean look. I also like that the area where the orange is, or if you're looking at an anery where the
Sure.
white is. I like that to be clean. Not everybody cares about that. Some people like the morphs where you get some kind of dirty look in there, but I like that real clean look myself. If you're going to reduce spots, if you're going to reduce pattern, I want it to also look clean.
So here's another banger:
Mm.
the Paradox GX Snow Paint.
Yeah, so this is combining the two previous ones that you showed, right? So this is expressing Paradox albino paint and at the same time the anery. So as you probably know, just to get a snow, for example, it's just albino and anery expressed at the same time. That's your snow, and then you can get paradox snow as well in your Kenyans. This is by using the paradox albino paired with the anery. This is an expression of both those things at the same time, stacked with the Gene X paint.
Sure, sure. So super, super, super awesome animals, super awesome. So now we're going to show one that I think, well, obviously you love them all, but you said you prefer super clean. Now we're talking about different genetics, but this thing is a smoke show clean. The Sun Kiss.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah, those things are born orange.
is that paradoxing coming through on that, or what's
Yes.
going on here?
Yes, that is. Yeah, yeah. That's so there's a lot genetically. I guess there's a lot going on there, and I just use Sunkissed as just a short descriptor. And but yeah, it's a paradox albino Gene X paint stripe, and so it's expressing all those things at the same time.
Yeah, it is.
At minimum, there may be something else in there, but right now I know it's at least expressing those.
That's awesome. So then we slide to some darker stuff and bring in the Black Russian.
Okay, yeah. This is Black Russian Sand Boa. These are also sort of gaining popularity as people become aware of them. I still meet people at the shows that when they see these at my table, they've never they just have never come in contact with them or didn't know about them, right? So I'm still educating people about these. But yeah, the Russian Sand Boas in general, they can be kept the same as the Kenyan Sand Boas. However, behaviorally, they're a little bit different. And of course, they obviously have a different look to them as well.
Sure. Now, I don't know anything. I've never been to Russia, but I don't think sand.
Okay, well, here, let me give you a little background. I guess might help. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah.
In a way, I kind of think Russian sand boa is maybe not the best name for them. The Russian part's a little off. The sand boa part's a little off. But I'll try to explain. It's just kind of an old name that stuck. I guess I didn't come up with it, but they really most of their range is outside of Russia. It's kind of the old USSR. Really that part, I guess you'd say. And so you're looking at countries like Kazakhstan, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, Afghanistan, all the stands, right?
Right.
And so they have a really broad range going from actually a part of southern Russia, like Dagestan, Russia, on the west side, on the west side of the Caspian Sea, and then their range just extends about 2,000 miles all the way over into China and Mongolia. So throughout that range, there is, it is arid to semi-arid in a lot of those regions. There is some desert, but mostly it's like grassland, steppes, and high desert. And even mountainous, and so. They, probably wouldn't want to think of them as living in sand like an Arabian sand boa.
Sure, right.
Yeah, but and the other thing that's different about these Russian sand boas is their behaviors. So one of the things that I will commonly hear at a show when people go by, a table, my table that has sand boas. Is sometimes they'll hear the comment, they'll say, "Oh, those are pretty cool, but you don't ever see them," And I guess they're referring to the fact that if they put them in an enclosure, they burrow under it during the day, and you may not see them. Well, that can be the case with the Kenyans, but with the Russian sand boas, it's not like that. They will burrow at times, however, they are extremely active. And if any Russian sand boa keeper can sort of attest to this, but these are very kind of bold, outgoing creatures. When you open up the enclosure, they'll venture out. They want to see what you're doing, want to kind of explore. And so they just have a very different kind of personality, if you want to call it that,
Sure,
or different behavior, than a lot of your other sand boas.
So would they live in those other ranges over there in Russia then, like what you were talking about, in the grasslands and stuff?
Yeah. So those when I say grassland, it's actually I don't know if you were to look up. It's like I don't know all the vegetation over there. Wormwood and so certain types of forbs and shrubs.
Sure.
But it is pretty arid though. It doesn't rain very much there. But the other thing is a lot of their environment, there's a lot of it's really rugged. There's lots of temperature extremes. So not only can it get really hot during the summer, like daytime temps of 100, 110 in some of those areas. Yeah. But in the winter, like if you look at Kazakhstan, some of those areas, may get in the 90s during the summer, but in the winter, for 3 months out of the year, the average temperature is not even above freezing. So they get really cold.
Do you keep them all in the same basic husbandry requirements, or do you what for anybody that might be interested in getting one? What type of ranges? Because it almost sounds like they must be extremely hardy because there's such a gradient.
They are out of, I've kept and bred several species of sand boas, and I would say the Eryx miliaris, which is this Russian sand boa, is probably the most hardy, one of the toughest ones. And again, you can keep. You were asking about the husbandry, so you can keep them like you would a Kenyan sand boa. In terms of temperature, humidity, that type of thing. However, they will do a little bit better drier than the Kenyans. Kenyans will actually start to have some shedding issues if it drops down to, say 30% humidity, that type of thing. However, the Russians will shed out just fine at 30%, usually. And also, when it comes to temperatures, I do keep all of mine in what I call my Sand Boa room. And so in the summertime, it does get the ambient air temperature even is quite warm in there. And that's fine. You can again keep them the same. The part that's maybe a little different is if you choose to breed them. And so a lot of my Russians, I will actually cool them down. Whereas with Kenyans, the most I would do is maybe turn off the heat for a couple months. But no, the Russians, I put those into a wine cooler at about, and we go low, about 45 degrees.
Okay.
I don't know that you have to go that low for sure. I know some other people who've bred them, they do more of what I guess you could call like a soft cool down, where you don't go down to 45. Maybe you just do 65 or 70. And I've seen people have success with that. So I'm not saying you have to do that, but there are some kind of things you want to pay attention to. If you do that, you need to provide water for them because they're going to be roaming, when I get them down to 40 or 45, they just all go to sleep, right? And so they don't need food. They don't need water. You just want to keep it dry and cold for 3 months and then wake them up after 3 months and they are ready to go. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. So I know, and I haven't kept them before, so I'll just ask the question because if it's a question I want to ask, if somebody's new, then it probably helps them too. So I know with certain species that there's like a size appropriate meal. With these guys being the size they are, because I'm used to a little bit bigger snakes, like some of the Asian rat snakes and things like that, ball pythons. Do you prefer to feed smaller meals more frequently, or how would somebody go about making sure their animal's solid and healthy?
I actually just look at about the middle of their body. You want to go with feed them a rodent that is about the size of the middle of the body. That's going to be larger than their head. Something that I won't say this is a mistake, but something that I sometimes see people do that will kind of stall out the growth in the Sand Boa. It won't grow as well. Is they will look at the head and they're like, oh, that tiny little head, and then they will feed it a tiny. They'll keep it on pinkies for like a year, and if you keep it on pinkies for a year, it's just not. I mean, it's not going to starve to death, but it's just not going to grow, right? So, I think the thing that maybe if you're new to Sand Boas, the thing to keep in mind is they can probably take a larger meal than what you would expect based on that head size, So I would look at the middle of the body and go with, a rodent that's about that thick. And in terms of frequency, while the Sand Boas are growing, they actually eat every 5 to 7 days.
Okay.
And now they slow down considerably once they get large. Of course, you will be feeding them larger meals just less frequently. Females, if they're not breeding, I mean, once every 10 to 14 days is fine. Your males, even less. I mean, once they're grown, twice a month they can maintain weight at twice a month often. And of course, keep in mind they're all a little bit different, right, with their metabolism, but
sure. And I know, as keepers, hobbyists, and our basic pet entry people or whatever, it's easy for us to overlove the animals and think, man, what, every 3 days we're going to throw something in there. And it's important to keep that health standard, even if the animal will snatch it up every 3 days. I'm kind of on the belief, and it may not be popular, but everybody talks about overfeeding, right, Rufus? And it's just in anything. We won't even say reptiles, but just anything. And we hold ourselves to a guideline, and we're going to feed them every 7 days, every 10 days, every 5 days, depends on the species. In the wild, they may only eat XYZ times a year.
Right.
So
Excellent point. Yeah.
in all reality, we're all kind of power feeding. So you got to kind of keep that in mind. And that's why I asked if maybe they needed something smaller, because I didn't know how their stomach and everything, but it sounds like they're pretty much your typical feed for your snake.
Yeah, I think so. But you bring up an excellent point there. I like what you said about what they're doing in the wild. And I think oftentimes sometimes I'll see keepers get frustrated with sand boas, especially maybe a male sand boa that's mature. He may go off of feed for a while, maybe 3 or 4 months even. And that's, as long as that animal's healthy, it's just really not a big deal. But as you were saying, it seems like sometimes people want them to eat on a predictable schedule, day in, day out, all year, or what, day in, day out, but all year round, right? All year round. And the thing is that just, if you are trying to feed them, say once a week, all year round, you're trying to get them to do something that for generations, this has not happened in
Right. Right.
Yeah. And so to give you an example, like the Russian sand boas, if you're trying to get one to eat all year round, in nature, if this animal, if he's living in Kazakhstan, he's going to eat and feed heavily for maybe 4 to 6 months. And then for 6 months, it's winter. And so he's probably not going to eat.
He's not doing nothing.
Yeah, at all. And so what I have is my Russians eat very well, but I cool them down. And so like after 3 months, they're ready to eat once I warm them back up. However, if you get a male that he's maybe older male, he has excellent body weight, good muscle tone, everything. When he comes out of of that brumation period, he may just skip it. He's ready to breed.
Right. They'll go right into it.
Yeah. And so he might not eat for, another 2 months. And so they'll go, 4 or 5 months and not drop hardly any body weight.
Yeah.
And they're just fine. And they'll go back to eating when they want to.
Yep. It's interesting, man. It's interesting. So as long as your temps and everything are on, guys, sometimes they decide that, hey, man, that last meal was pretty big. I'm still digesting the Thanksgiving turkey, So so here's another one. This is a super black Russian. Okay. So just another variation of this, but it was a little bit more of
that's correct. It's just so really the naming of black Russian, super black Russian, this is sort of already in place. But when I started breeding them, there was a guy kind of passed these terms down to me, I guess. And had not just to me, but to anyone breeding them. But the I just mainly want to say it's not something I came up with.
Yeah,
he was looking.
He was looking out for Rufus.
The black and the super black, they're really kind of the same. This is just polygenic in terms of like how dark the sand boa gets.
Sure.
So like some of them will just get darker than others. And now there is a way to kind of predict some of that once they're born. Once you look at the babies, you can look at one and tell, okay, this one's going to be a super black. This one's going to be a black, but really in terms of genetically, what's the difference? Very, very little. They're just gradations. I think that's what I'm trying to think of. The word I'm trying to think. They're like gradations of the same thing.
So your mama bear, she lays eggs. How long is it before they start pipping and trying to stick their head out? Is it roughly 60 days still, or?
Well, all right. So it would depend on. All right, that's a good question. Okay, so a couple things, I guess, that kind of maybe surprise people about these sand boas is you have some that are ovoviviparous and some that are oviparous, and so this just means that some of them lay eggs and some of them do not lay eggs. So the Kenyan sand boa and the Russian sand boa actually do not lay eggs. They have like a live birth.
Oh, okay.
Right. Yeah. And like a Kenyan sand boa's gestation time, approximately 3 to 4 months. Um, and the ones that lay eggs are the Eryx jayakari, which is your Arabian sand boa, and Eryx mulleri, which is the Saharan sand boa. And yeah, there's your Arabian sand boa right there. And so that one does lay eggs. What I've found, I don't really know in the wild how long it takes for them to hatch. In captivity, I've seen a very wide range with these, anywhere, from 70 to like upwards to like 80, 88, almost 80, upper 80s, right?
So set them
In
and
60
forget
to 90 days almost, right?
Set them and forget them.
Yeah, right. Oh man, I hate these. I mean, hey, this whole hobby takes a lot of patience, but man, staring at eggs every day.
The only way to keep up with it is to just never stop, so that you always have something going.
Oh, I see. Yeah. So you always got something hatching
in the baiter, dude.
Yeah.
So yeah, I shared the little Arabian here. This is the one that I think has to go hand in hand with my favorite, with this one here. Okay. I love the positioning on the eyes, and I've been just waiting and pocketing this one. For those that say you never see them, how well would you like to look in your tank and see this? This is cute. I don't care who you are, man. That's cool super looking, cool. Dude.
Yeah.
That's super cool. So, and then you sent me a picture of the baby coming out.
You got it. Yeah, I sent you a picture of one popping out of the egg right there. So, yeah.
I love it. So, real quick, we did have a couple other Russians here. We have the albino Russian.
Yes.
Now, is that something that you had to breed from the black Russian to get to this point?
I did, but there were other breeders that had produced these before me. I actually, one of the groups I bought years ago was from someone who sold me possible hets. And so I was more really interested in just breeding the super blacks. However, I knew that I had these possible hets, and just kind of got lucky and produced these we think they're T positives, but just kind of conventionally, I guess they had been called albinos again by people previous to me, and so that's what this one is right here. They can look very different. I don't know, can't remember what pictures I sent, but depending on the color phase, the type of or the albino would look very different, right? Like that one right there, that's a T positive as well, but it's overlaid with the cinnamon phase. And so you get, a totally different look than the T positive black Russian. So
this one
and
here,
I really like this one.
This one here on the screen is a mix between this and this. Right?
There you go. Yeah, the albino part of the last one, and then that cinnamon you showed. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, it's cinnamon and albino, and it gives you that one right there that I just call the golden.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Cool. Their belly, you don't see this here, but the belly is orange, and then some of them, as they mature on the sides, you'll get like these little undertones of orange that sort of start to glow through that gold. This is a really nice looking sand boa.
It sure is. It sure is. So we're kind of getting close to wrap up here, Rufus, but okay. I wanted to talk really briefly here about some of the other stuff that you're into. When I say that, as I was researching, so you teach, correct? Tell everybody a little bit about what you do for a living and kind of what drove you that direction, dude, because it envelops who you are.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I was fortunate enough that while I was in college and doing my research, actually, master's research in reptiles and amphibians, I also had an opportunity to teach labs. I really enjoyed doing that. That led to me doing more teaching. And, kind of long story short, to kind of compress this, now, I guess for the last 16, 17 years or so, I've been working at a community college where I'm an associate professor of biology. And so I have occasionally I'll get to teach some environmental biologies or so that type of related biology. It's a lot of fun. We actually teach a course that's like a biology for people that want to be teachers. That's cool. But majority of my time though is spent teaching actually human anatomy and physiology and also microbiology, because we have at the school that we're at, we have a high need for those classes because we have a nursing school there. And so we're educating a lot of people that want to be future nurses. So it's kind of a totally different direction, but that's the bulk of what I do.
I love it, dude. I love it. So something else that I saw when I was going through your stuff. So you like to get out into the wild and things like that and go on adventures and herping.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just filling in the blanks. Tell everybody a little bit about that stuff, because you had some.
I
really
mean that,
cool,
and that's been a lifelong, passion. Really is, like I said earlier, growing up in rural Tennessee. I mean, I was just especially in the summer, I was out flipping logs and going through old barns and looking for snakes. Pulling out big, rat snakes out of barns that were probably longer than me. And when I was a kid, and I really enjoyed doing that. And then I've had the chance to just kind of continue that at different capacities and different levels. For example, with the teaching, a few years ago, we did a biology class where we took students to Galapagos. So I've been able to travel to a few countries in Central and South America, and doing a little herping along the way. It's always fun. Yeah.
What's the in your opinion, what's been the coolest thing that you've stumbled across on one of your trips, and where was you at?
That's hard.
Yeah, I know. It's a lot. The favorite one is the one in front of you. You just found, but
yeah, pretty much. Yeah, exactly. I remember, this might kind of shock you, but like in Peru, I was in Peruvian rainforest and I was out at night snake hunting. And, we found Peruvian rainbow boas and green anacondas. And so a lot of cool stuff, got to see caimans. But a non-reptile, I guess, that sticks in my mind was a sloth. Sloth was
cool.
Awesome. And so, we caught a sloth, got to hold that. That was pretty cool. And then, man, you can't beat like when we were in Galapagos, seeing the marine iguanas. And also just getting to be around those Galapagos tortoises that is just something I'll never forget. It's awesome.
Okay, so I got one final wrap up question for you, because I know that there's an answer somewhere. So I'm going to take you back to when you were younger now, Rufus. What is something that you brought home that either mom, dad, or whoever you stayed with was like, Rufus, get that thing out of the house? What did you bring in that drew the most attention?
Okay. I don't know about the most attention. Definitely that happened several times with snakes. Like I know, I walked into kitchen. I was all, like, my mom actually really, she's interested in that kind of thing. Anyway, my dad was kind of like, okay, don't get that close to me. Right.
Right.
And so I remember going into catching, I was so excited about a rat snake I had caught, and I was going into the kitchen to show my mom, and my dad's back was turned, and my mom's like she's like, giving me the get out of here, because she's afraid my dad probably have a heart attack. But yeah, a single event though, there's one that's kind of related to what you're talking about there. I used to, when I was really younger, I don't know, elementary school age, I wasn't allowed to have the snakes in the house, that kind of thing. So I would catch them and put them in containers and keep them under my bed.
Of course.
And so that worked really well.
What's the safest place for them to live?
That's what I'm thinking. Exactly. They like it. It's dark, And so anyway, one morning, my mom yells at me and says, you get out here right now and get this snake out of the hall. And I'm like, what snake? you know.
Yeah.
And she's like, you know what I'm talking about. And so anyway, that what really was the end of me keeping any animals inside the house, you know.
What
So,
was it? Do you remember?
Man, it was just a rough green snake. So
I
that's
love
all
a
that
rough
was.
green snake.
Yeah.
I love a rough green snake.
It was, you know, it's just, but you know, that sticks out in the morning when you're walking down the hall, dark hallway. It's bright green, you know, big long green snake just stretched out. Yeah. And so,
everyone
anyway,
else, everyone else in the house was not with it, Rufus.
probably not. But, you know, but I'm glad they have always kind of, you know, really been supportive as they can be. They, you know, of my interest in that kind of thing, even though they cut them out of the house after that point.
Right. Well, hey, Rufus, I'm going to wrap it up, brother. I super appreciate you coming on, man, giving me some of your time. I know you're super busy, dude. I appreciate everything you're doing, man. I love everything that you said. I love the fact that you're out there teaching. Your energy is contagious, brother. Just keep smiling and doing you, brother.
Thanks, man. Hey, I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely. So we will see you in the field, brother.
Yeah, sounds good, man.
All right, guys. So I had a lot of fun speaking with Rufus. Learn some cool stuff. Super interesting cat, man. And you guys need to keep your eyes open for him if you see him at any of the shows. Once again, Rufus Darden of Rufus Darden Reptiles. Man, if you're into Sand Boas or you're thinking about it, man, it's time to move. Hit up ya boy. All right, guys, we'll see you next time. As always, tune in every Wednesday at 7 o'clock, generally speaking, with ya boy.